Hello and welcome to today's conversation. Today we are going to be talking about stress incontinence, and I'm going to share my story with all of you about how I used to suffer from urinary stress incontinence and how making some lifestyle changes has really helped me reverse a lot of the things that I was pretty much suffering in silence about. And I know there are a lot of other women who are feeling the same way because I hear from all of you. So hopefully today, me sharing my story with you will help you, and I will give you some tips and tricks to kind of help you control what's going on in your body and see if you can find some relief as well. So welcome. My name is Diane. I am an intermittent fasting mindset coach here in this community. We talk about all things aging and intermittent fasting. Today, like I said, we will be talking about stress incontinence, and I will be sharing my story with all of you, as well as some information to help you if you feel like you are suffering from this condition that seems to plague women most specifically. I also want to make sure that I mention, because it is our official registration week, that our intermittent fasting for today's aging women course registration is hot and heavy, open for registration this week. We start on Saturday, April the 3rd. Registration closes on Friday, April the 2nd. So I have enough time to get everyone in. Make sure you check the description box, or you can DM me if you want more information about joining, or if you're on my email list, don't worry, I'll be emailing you this week to remind you as well. So make sure that you are on any of those areas, either DM me or on my email list, and we'll get you signed up for class this next month. So stress incontinence, or more specifically urinary stress incontinence, is that condition a lot of women suffer from or are plagued with after childbearing, right, or childbirth. So we carry a big old baby in our body, we push it out of our body, and that puts a lot of strain on a lot of the internal organs in our body and can cause us to suffer from stress incontinence. Pregnancy alone can be a condition that can cause us to suffer from stress incontinence, as well as menopause, believe it or not. Going through your menstrual cycle and having hormonal changes going on in your body. Weakened muscles, like I talked about with childbearing experiences, can also cause a stress incontinence and just physical changes in our body. So if you're a woman, right, so you don't necessarily even have to have had a pregnancy or given birth to a child vaginally to suffer from urinary stress incontinence, you can just be going through menopause and suffer as well. So it's also one of those things that's linked to aging for women. So we're going to talk about all of that today. And like I said, I'm going to share my story with you guys so that you will hopefully be able to find some relief if you've been suffering. I suffered very severely with this, and it was a very emotional, and it was kind of one of those things that made me feel really sad about my life after I gave birth to my son when I was 34, because I was a runner, and I went out running, right after I was cleared to go running, and I wanted to get myself back in shape. And every time I went out for a run, I came back with tears just flowing down my face, because I was so frustrated with my body after giving birth, and the fact that I wasn't able to run the way I was before. And so I know a lot of women go through these mixed emotions with their body and going through childbirth, because we're so happy that we have a baby and we feel so fortunate and blessed to have this little baby, but we also have some things that we have to manage in the recovery process. So I was suffering from stress incontinence for a very long time. And it changed the way I showed up in my life. It changed the way I ran. I stopped running in races publicly because it was one of those things I was just really embarrassed about. And I felt like I couldn't show up as my best running self because of the fact that I would just pee everywhere. And so it did limit me for many, many years. And it was one of those things that I felt really internally sad and frustrated about. Had nothing to do with my son, of course. But it was just my body and feeling like my body was failing me because of this condition. So we're going to talk a little bit about that as well. So what are the symptoms of urinary stress incontinence? If you have it, you know what some of the symptoms are, but leakage of urine. Leakage of urine can come when you sneeze, cough, lift something heavy, exercise. It would happen to me if I tripped over like a little curb, or if I would trip over like a little lift in a sidewalk when I was walking, my stress incontinence was very severe post having babies and before I changed some things in my lifestyle. So I would pee all the time. And it was one of those things that was really embarrassing, and it was always on my mind. So I felt like I wasn't present in the moment because I was always preoccupied. Like I couldn't sneeze in the middle of a Target or, you know, out shopping or whatever without like totally like bracing myself for the sneeze. And I always had to know where the restroom was. Just because I felt so preoccupied about it. So it can be very life limiting because you don't want to, you know, be the woman that's in the store and sneeze and pee in your pants. So that's what I want to talk about a lot today. So it can be in the form of just drops, so like a little leakage, or it can be the form of streams. And that's what I suffered from when I was out running. And so I would literally come home with just like streams of urine down my legs. And again, it was super embarrassing. It changed the way I ran because I didn't want to run with anybody. I was embarrassed if I ran into someone on the street in my neighborhood when I was running. I stopped running road races because I didn't want to have to manage it. And it really was affecting me emotionally and mentally because running was my thing. So for a lot of women who are runners or are physically active, it can be that thing that can change how you show up in your life. So there are treatments and cures. When I went to my doctor and I talked to him about how I was suffering from stress incontinence, I left his office with prescriptions and referrals. So one of the prescriptions was for a antidepressant because he thought I was depressed. I wasn't depressed. I was frustrated. The second prescription I walked out of there with was a water kind of retention medicine, which is just basically high blood pressure medication. And the third prescription I walked away with was a referral actually for surgery. So a lot of women end up getting the sling type of surgery where they actually just insert a sling and kind of hoist your bladder up so that there's not that pressure anymore. And I know a lot of women have found relief with that. I just didn't want to go that route. I didn't want to have surgery at the time when I was at the peak of suffering. Was when a lot of my girlfriends were going in to get that surgery, and there were a lot of complications with it, and they ended up worse off than they were before they went in. So it was one of those things I was really hesitant about, and I just went to the drawing board and tried to really do the investigative work to see if I could cure it on my own. So some of the things we can do is strengthen our pelvic floor. So this is where I'm always super encouraging of women to implement training smart into their healthy lifestyle. So you want to make sure that you are exercising your muscles, right? There are a lot of specific pelvic floor exercises that you can do. I can tell you from my own personal experience, I just make sure that I'm engaging my core as much as I can. I've really strengthened my core. I do lots of strength training. I do running. I'm doing some yoga these days and just keeping my body active so that I keep all the muscles engaged. But there are specific pelvic floor exercises you can do. You could just research that for yourself. Weight loss is another one of those things that we can really focus on to improve what we're frustrated with as far as stress incontinence. Any extra weight we're bearing on our body is just one of those things that causes so many other issues that we have to manage. And so I did end up losing about 20 pounds. And I lost a lot of body fat by implementing some lifestyle changes. So weight loss can be another one of those things that can help improve stress incontinence. Another thing to make the connection on is when women end up going through a pregnancy and we get busy and we don't take the time to lose that pregnancy weight post baby delivery, that can be one of those things that really does extend the frustration time with stress incontinence. So if you feel like you are one of those women who never really lost the baby weight, make that connection as well and really focus on seeing if you can implement some lifestyle changes in your life to help get some of that baby weight off, regardless of how old your baby is. I know a lot of women come to me for help who have babies that are 20 now and are still battling that initial, pregnancy weight loss. So it is something that we should really pay attention to and focus on. And then healthy lifestyle habits that I personally implemented, that where I saw the most significant change with what I was struggling with stress incontinence, was reducing inflammation and nutritional changes. And I'm going to talk about that in just a second. So remember, anytime our body is holding on to fluids, there's an opportunity for fluids to be released, right? And so that was probably the most significant change that I noticed, is that when I reduced inflammation in my body, my stress incontinence got so much better. The other things that I have done personally where I've noticed the biggest improvement with my stress incontinence was reversing a lot of the sugar-related diseases I have. So I'm no longer insulin resistant. I'm no longer pre-diabetic. I've also reduced the inflammation, like I said, lost weight and body fat. And then the other thing is eliminating food intolerances, more specifically gluten, dairy, and soy. And let me tell you how I tested this out. Anytime I have gluten for dinner the night before a run, I suffer from stress incontinence issues, right? So I won't have my best run. I'll feel the heaviness in my bladder. I'll feel the leakage happen when I run. If I'm very, very aware of eliminating gluten, dairy, and soy, I can run stress incontinence free. So there are a lot of things that we don't connect with the choices that we're making and the end result of what the signs and symptoms our body is trying to send us. When I'm free of these things, I can run stress incontinence free. So do some testing out yourself, especially if you are a runner and you're feeling like stress incontinence is mentally and emotionally holding you back from showing up as your best physical self, right? So pay attention to some of the food intolerances you have, do a test on them, and see if you run or you exercise or just move about your day better when these are eliminated or taken out of your life. And then mineralized water, of course, making sure my body is properly hydrated. Yes, I drink 100 to 150 ounces a day. One of the biggest complaints I hear, or fears I hear from women about upping their water intake, is that they're going to have to go to the bathroom more. Going to the bathroom more is not going to make your stress incontinence problem worse, right? Because I could have a completely empty bladder, but if I was holding on to inflammation, or I was not paying attention to the signs and signals that my body is sending me, I would still suffer from stress incontinence regardless of how much water I drink. So the beautiful thing about upping our water intake is it's going to retrain your bladder to handle the extra water and process it and help you eliminate it, right? And so upping your water intake is another one of those things. And when I was doing research on this on the internet, it says it helps with bladder training. So you're training your bladder to hold more liquid, and then you're going to schedule those times that you're going to go use the restroom, and then control the release and control how your bladder is holding it. So we want to practice utilizing our bladder for how it was designed to be used. Upping your water intake can definitely do that. Like I said, I drink about 25 ounces of water before I run, and this is more problematic to me than drinking water. If I drink a bottle of water and I'm spot on with eliminating these from my diet, I do not suffer from a bad run, right? If I have any of these in my diet and I skip water before my run, I will severely suffer from stress incontinence. So make sure that you're paying attention and you're making the right connections so that you're not suffering from something that's an easy fix. Eliminating gluten, dairy, and soy are easy fixes. These also will help us with a lot of the other things that we're unhappy with as we're aging as well. One of the things I noticed before I was a menopausal, so when I was still perimenopausal, I noticed that my hormonal changes were also directly affecting how I was performing on a run based on this issue here, right? So remember, hormones are going to change how your body is processing things as well. And one of the, where did that change go? One of the things that causes stress incontinence is our menstrual cycle. So I noticed that right or during and right after my menstrual cycle, I had zero stress incontinence issues related to what I was trying to do in my physical activity. And then when I got to about 2 weeks before my menstrual cycle again, I would have the worst. Again, it's probably because of that water retention and what our body's holding in preparation for our menstrual cycle. Now, I don't have a menstrual cycle because I'm postmenopausal, so I don't feel that as much. Everything that I feel with the hormonal changes and me holding on to water has to do with my nutritional choices and lifestyle changes. So another one of those conditions, urinary stress incontinence, is linked to aging for women. So the older we get, the more problematic this is supposed to be for us. I can tell you, as I'm about to turn 55 years old next month, that my stress incontinence issues are only a problem for me if I'm not paying attention and making conscious choices based on what it is that I say that I want for myself. When I was in my late 40s and my early 50s, I was suffering so severely from stress incontinence, and I was younger, right? So I'm still running. I was running then. The only difference between how my stress incontinence affected my life then and how it affects it now is based on the choices and the healthy lifestyle habits that I've created for myself as an aging woman. So I will stand here and confidently tell you that if you're suffering silently from stress incontinence, if you start connecting the dots to the choices that you're making and the signs and signals that your body is sending you, you could find some relief as well. Remember, I said I only suffer from stress incontinence now when I make decisions, right, that don't serve what it is that I say that I really want. And when I'm making choices in my nutritional lifestyle based on gluten, dairy, and soy, I tend to have an issue. One of the biggest factors of reducing inflammation and me healing my body from insulin resistance and a lot of the pre-diabetic conditions that I was feeling has to do with intermittent fasting and me having the opportunity to balance out my hormones. So again, it's one of those opportunities where we give ourselves a window of time throughout our 24-hour day period where we give our body an opportunity to heal itself, and we're not doing anything to interfere. Is it 100% intermittent fasting? Absolutely not. Nothing is ever going to be 100% one thing. But I can tell you it's the lifestyle habits that I've incorporated along with that I will always credit to everything that improves as I age. And you don't hear a lot of women who are aging talking about all the things in their life that are improving. So remember, it's a combination of all the lifestyle habits that we're making. Intermittent fasting happened to be the one that helped me cure my sugar-related diseases and make the connection from the other things in my life that I was doing that had also been causing me some problems. So if you're suffering, I promise you, if you do some due diligence and you do some of your own investigative work on the decisions you're making and how that affects your body, you will find some relief as well. And you won't have to go to some of those more extreme, I call surgery extreme, any of those extreme efforts to fix something that might be bothering you. So hopefully this helps. Guys, I'm always an open book. It was a very embarrassing time for me just because of the fact that I love to run. I love to run outside. And all of those things that I love the most, I felt like were taken away from me by something that I thought I couldn't control. I thought it was going to be how my life was forever. And I'm glad I didn't believe that 100%. And I'm glad I've done the work to do some internal healing with my body and my mind as well. And now I can run freely and don't have to worry about being embarrassed out on a run if I happen to run into someone or if I want to join a race and run publicly. It's a very, very freeing experience for sure. Amy, happy Passover to you as well, girlfriend. Veronica, I had this problem when I went into menopause. It was so terrible. I couldn't go for a walk or I'd wet myself, even if I'd gone to the toilet before the walk. Yeah, so draining your bladder isn't the problem. Like I said, like I can now drink 25 ounces of water before a run, no problem, right? But if I have gluten tonight for dinner, my run tomorrow will be different. And that's just because gluten makes my body retain water because I'm intolerant to it. So pay attention to a lot of those things. You don't have to suffer in silence. And the thing that I really want to get the message out here for our community of women is that if you go to the doctor, and like I did, and you share your frustration, you'll walk out with prescriptions and referrals. And that's okay if that's the way you choose to manage this, right? But if you're trying to manage something with medication and surgery and you don't make any lifestyle changes, a lot of these problems will come back. So I always recommend addressing it from the root cause first. And then if you don't find relief, then going to that next step would probably be the best thing, because we don't want to limit our life, right? And so make sure that you're doing the due diligence on healing your body from the inside, connecting the dots, and then going to that next route if you need to. Jessica, I had it done and loved it, but I think I need to do it again. I had what done, Jessica? The hoisting of the bladder. My grandmother had it done too. I had a couple of girlfriends that had horrible experiences with I think it's called the sling. And so that was enough for me. I'm good. And now I figured out that I didn't need it anyways. And so I just use my deductible for that surgery on other things. So, but I always say that you have to do what suits you best. And so if having that procedure done is the thing that's going to make you live your most authentic life, then it's totally worth it, for sure. It just wasn't the option for me. And now I know that I didn't need it because I was able to manage it through lifestyle changes. And that's what I always recommend here first and foremost. Yeah, that. Okay, cool. Yeah, maybe see if you can connect some of these dots, Jessica, and see if maybe you can avoid having to go in and have a surgery done again. Oftentimes it is that thing that's going on internally in our body where we're just holding on to things that aren't working so well for our body system. And then when we figure those things out, then our system goes back to operating the way it did before. Good to learn other ways. Yeah, for sure. Okay, so with that being said, I'm going to bust out of here for today. Just a quick reminder, I will not be here on Wednesday. Michael and I are scheduled to go get our first dose of our vaccine, so I won't be here Wednesday afternoon, but I will be on Instagram tomorrow at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time to talk about metabolic flexibility part 2. We're going to continue the conversation. You guys had so many amazing questions over there. So if you can join me on Instagram, that would be great. And then again, remember our intermittent fasting for today's Aging Women course, where we work primarily on these things right here, trying to figure out what it is that's causing us to age in a way that we're not happy with. That class starts on Saturday, April the 3rd. Registration will be open through the 2nd. And if you're on my email list, just know I'm going to be emailing you this week to remind you to jump in with us. By the end of the 30 days in class, I promise you, you will be thinking about your body differently. You'll be thinking about aging differently, and you'll be thinking about the choices that you're making completely differently. And everyone who ends up graduating from the class ends up loving their time in class and really enjoying the fact that they can be in control of how it is they're aging. So let's see, we got another comment here. Veronica, I went to a pelvic floor physio, and through diet change and pelvic exercise and progressed through menopause, it all changed. Yeah, for sure. So are you saying that that you found relief doing those things with the pelvic floor exercises and dietary changes, and then everything through menopause was okay? Is that what you were trying to say, Veronica? I think that's what you were trying to say. Okay, we're going to go. I'll see you guys on Tuesday, and then I'll see you guys back here next week. And if you're going to be in class with us, I will see you guys on Friday afternoon when I welcome everyone into the community. Remember, if you're suffering from something in silence, do some investigative work, reach out for help, ask questions. I'm always an open book. If you have anything that you're suffering from and you want to get some advice or maybe just steered in the right direction, I am always here to help. So never be embarrassed. We're all going through the same things. So you're not the only one, and suffering in silence is just something that's just too unnecessary, right? And more of us women are speaking up. So always feel free to ask me if you have anything that you need to talk about. Okay, yeah, it helped. Okay, perfect. So yeah, so pelvic floor exercises and changing your diet helped Veronica as she progressed through menopause. So aging doesn't have to be the way it's been publicized for us. All we have to do is be proactive about what it is that we're not happy with, and then make the decisions to make those changes. So Veronica, I'm so happy it helped you. No surgery. I'm in the same boat, girlfriend. I absolutely love the fact that we have the power to control what's going on with our body if we just pay attention and are willing to ask the right questions and then put in the work. So proud of you for sure. Okay, so I'm going to check off. I'll see you guys around. Like I said, always feel free to reach out to me if you need anything. And then I'll be back here Monday at 3 p.m. Central Standard Time next week. Have a good one, you guys. Talk to you later.